Welcome into the Inside Carolina Game Plan. I'm Tommy Ashley. That's Greg Barnes in the middle. That's Jason Staples in there too. That is Johnny T-Shirt as your sponsor and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. This game, it is second straight rivalry week, Greg. We're off to a good start. Can't talk tonight. This time it's Duke coming into Chapel Hill, and Duke 5-5. Overall, but not many people are giving North Carolina a chance in this ball game. Just overall thoughts on the Blue Devils, and why is it that nobody, like I said, nobody's giving Carolina a chance?
Well, one of the things we talked about last week was how Wake Forest was probably the best defense that North Carolina was going to play, and Wake Forest's offense was really not that good. And so from a matchup perspective, it kind of worked with what North Carolina has done all year long. You know, we know that they've improved defensively and that the offense is really just kind of sputtering along. And when you get a couple of explosive plays and a fluky touchdown, that's enough for Wake Forest to kind of keep Carolina at bay. This week, however, and I think the same can be said for next week against NC State, is the matchup just does not favor North Carolina. And the reason why is that Duke, while they were pretty good defensively last year, they are not good defensively this year. Offensively, though, with Darian Mensah, the Tulane transfer, who's being paid $4 million per year over the next 2 years, as reporting goes, he's been really good. And Duke's offense has been stout, just like NC State's offense has been stout. And so it really comes down to I don't think Carolina's defense, while they've gotten better, is good enough to shut out Duke. And so can Carolina's offense score enough to beat Duke? And guys, we just haven't seen anything to suggest that potentially can happen unless the defense is just elite. And while they've gotten better, they stumbled a little bit last week, and they just haven't been that good all season long. So I think it's a tough matchup, Tommy.
Jason, that's the thing, and Greg sort of talked about it, mentioned it last week. I felt like the defense looked like it did early in the year against Wake Forest, and I don't think Wake Forest did a whole lot different than anything they expected, but they made Carolina look bad. And then, as we've talked about, there were some effort issues as well. So, why does Carolina have a chance? Why does Carolina not have a chance in your eyes? Before we dig into the details.
I was going to say, I mean, if we're going to get into why they have a chance and why they don't, then we're already digging into the details. But, I think, first of all, I think it's a little overblown how badly the defense played last week. I mean, they gave up two big plays that changed the whole game. One of them, as we've chronicled, was directly related to effort, and the other one was the fluky fumble return at the beginning of the game. Or the fumble, I guess you can't call it a return if he's going the same direction. Fumble recovery, going.
Yeah, it was termed as a fumble recovery for touchdown, 51.
Yeah,
no carries, no carries for 51. Yeah. No carries for 51 yards. What an average.
Hidden yardage.
It's very productive.
Infinite.
That's efficient. So, I don't think that the defense played that bad other than that. I mean, they gave up 4.2 yards per carry, I believe, outside of those two plays. So, or 4.2 yards per play total, not just per carry. 4.2 yards per play. I mean, that's not bad, even though it is against a bad Wake Forest team. They're not going to be good enough, though, to shut down this Duke team. You're limiting what this Duke team can do. That's what they've played three teams that have held them under 20. So think about that. This is an interesting thing to come into this game. How many times has North Carolina scored more than 20 this year against FBS competition?
Once.
Duke has only been held under 20 3 times. So that kind of tells us where the game sort of is going to be decided. I mean, it's going to be decided on whether or not this team is able to score enough points, because you're probably not going to hold this team to 10, to 13, whatever. You're going to have to win scoring in the 20s or 30s or 40s. And, this is a tall task against this team, this Duke team. By the way, those games where they were under 20, it was a loss, that game 2 loss to Illinois. And then they were held to 18 by Georgia Tech. And then last week, they were held to 17 by Virginia. So those are the 3 times that they've been held under 20. Other than those games, they've scored a lot of points. 46 at Clemson, 45 at Cal, 38 at Syracuse. I mean, that was Syracuse, but still. 45 over NC State. So they've scored a lot of points. And so you're going to have to be on your game to slow them down. And really the mission is, if you can keep them around 20, 21, 24 points, that's probably a pretty good defensive outing. Is there a chance? Yeah, because I think defensively, they're probably about as bad defensively as Wake Forest was offensively last week. It's just a matter of whether Carolina is going to have any ability to take advantage of that. Because, so far this season, Carolina hasn't showed a whole lot of ability to take advantage of air on offense. So, that's the real question is, are they going to be able to find a pulse on offense enough to be able to challenge them?
Where do we want to start? Do we want to start with Mensah, Greg, or do you want to start with the Carolina offense?
Let's start with Mensah.
Okay. A very good quarterback.
He is a very good quarterback. And
with the caveat.
What is the caveat?
I think you're already going there, aren't you, Greg?
I don't know. Go ahead, Jason. I'm curious now.
So remember we talked about pressure numbers before last week. Pressure numbers this week are even more extreme.
His PFF grades Mensah, overall are 90s. Is in the 90s.
Yeah. But Darian Mensah, when he has been kept clean this season, has put up a Drake May-esque 93.6 Pro Football Focus grade. He's adjusted completion percentage of 80.5. He's got a 4.7% big time throw percentage, 2.5% turnover worthy plays. He's got 7 turnover worthy plays in 273 dropbacks without pressure. That's really good. But when he has been pressured, that Pro Football Focus grade drops from 93.6 to 54.7. And he goes, in 121 dropbacks, he has 7 turnover worthy plays. He's got a fumble. He's got multiple turnover worthy plays there. 5.2%. So he doubles his turnover worthy play output. And his adjusted completion percentage drops to 67.6, which is still actually pretty good. But he's a very different quarterback when he is able to drop back on schedule and get the ball out. And by the way, his average time to throw when he doesn't have pressure, 2.52 seconds. He gets the ball out quick. And that helps too. So all of those numbers, that tells you this game, and by the way, he's taken 22 sacks when he's been under pressure, which is not great. His pressure to sack ratio is not terrific. So it's 18.2 there on the season. That's marginal. So this game, to me, so much of this game comes down to, can you get to Mensah enough to make him uncomfortable? Because if you can, you might be able to make it a ball game. If he's clean, you've got no shot.
It is strictly under pressure too. It's not, when I'm looking at his not blitzed versus when he's blitzed numbers, they don't seem to matter. It's only
he'll
under
torch
pressure.
The blitz if you don't get there.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's interesting. He's a great athlete, but he's not really a runner. What he does a pretty good job of, and this speaks to the being blitzed, is he moves around in the pocket. And I think that's part of some of the issue with the under pressure grade, is because he can move around and he feels comfortable doing that. And that gets him in trouble at times. But he does a really good job of kind of filling the pressure and kind of adjusting which is why some of those blitz numbers are what they are. I think it's fascinating. I mean, when you look at kind of what he's done all year long, on deep pass plays, he's got 17 big time throws, 11 touchdowns against 1 interception.
That's elite.
It is. It's really impressive. And he hasn't hit on a ton of them, but you're not going to hit on that many. And that's, when we talk about 20-plus yard pass plays for Carolina, sometimes that's just throwing the ball down the field 25 yards. Well, Mensah's taking shots every game all the way down the field. So some big throws. I agree with Jason. I think really the only thing that has tripped him up at all has been a little bit of pressure. But the fact that you've got to generate it with your front four is the problem. Because he does a good enough job of kind of filling the pressure and moving around that if you have some openings behind those linebackers that are coming in or the defensive backs, he's going to be able to pick you apart. And that's really the challenge. And the fact that he's not a runner, I mean, in theory, helps. I think he's only got 22 rushes this year in non-sack runs. So he is going to stay in the pocket. But you got to be able to capitalize. You've got to be able to get to him and put pressure on him and hope he makes some mistakes, because otherwise he's just going to have a field day against you.
Yeah, looking at those PFF numbers for him, they just need to cover the entire field and leave short left open. You see those numbers? I mean, it's green and blue in every area except short left. I mean, he can't throw short left.
It's really, really good. And short left is still pretty decent. It's still not bad. It's thrown off by one turnover-worthy play. That's the whole thing. So, by the way, and you look at those deep numbers, outside left, beyond 20 yards, 7 of 15 for 165 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, outside right, 12 of 35. I mean, he's approaching 50%. When you're getting downfield above 20 yards, and 5 touchdowns, 1 pick on the outside right. Those are really, really good numbers.
Well, who's the defensive MVP if Carolina has a shot? Is it Melkar Abujade? I mean, that is – I didn't feel like those guys did a ton against Robbie Ashford last week, at least from my vantage point, granted way up in the stands. But, I mean, if they got to generate it with the front four, Greg, it's got to be those 2 edges. It's got to be Tyler Thompson, Melkart, whoever else they sit out there on the edge. I don't think you can blitz the linebackers. He will cook them, especially if they don't get there, and if they don't get there and get him on the ground.
Well, you got to take some chances for sure. I mean, you got to create some negative plays, but for sure your defensive line has got to be stout, and you've got to be able to set the line of scrimmage. I think it's the most important part of that. Because if Duke is able to win at the line of scrimmage, number one, obviously that helps in the run game, but it also gives him just enough time where even if you have a defensive end that's able to get off the edge, he has a few ticks of a second to kind of slide left or right and maybe make a play. So I think it's really kind of an entire defensive front effort of just being strong in the middle, hitting your gaps, and really kind of collapsing that pocket as a group as best you can, and just do that over and over again. You're going to have to blitz a little bit. I mean, you can't just say, all right, well, we're going to try to get 4 there and we're going to sit in coverage, because if he's got time to throw, then he's going to be successful. So you just have to be creative with the amount of times that you go after him and how you choose to go after him.
And what Jason, you play behind it, because I think you do want to make sure that he's not seeing – like, if you're going to blitz him, you don't want to just play man-free behind it every time so that he's able to pick his matchup and put the ball on target. You've got to slow his processing down a little bit with some exotics. You've got to find a few ways to drop this guy or to show mugged backers and move some things around so that you can get some free rushers while you're not giving up some stuff in coverage. That's the real game here. That's the game within the game that you're going to have to do. Now, one other thing I do want to touch on here that's related to this is the teams that have been able to get pressure on him happen as you would expect. to overlap with the teams that have been able to stop the running game for Duke. And if you look at the correlation of wins and losses for Duke, the single stat that is most correlated with whether they win or lose is their yards per carry on offense. When they have won games, they are rushing for healthy chunks of yardage, with one exception. The Clemson game is the one outlier here where they, for a couple reasons, they just threw the ball over the yard in that one. But, for example, against, let's say, NC State, 35 carries, 149 yards, 4.26 yards per carry. That's a healthy day at the office in the running game, and they scored 45 points on NC State. All right. But in losses to Illinois and to Virginia and to Georgia Tech, they had, against Illinois, 3.42 yards per carry. Against Georgia Tech, 2.13 yards per carry. Against Virginia, 1.83 yards per carry. Those teams did a good job of getting them off schedule so that they were able then to get pressure in situations where Duke was not just able to throw whenever they wanted to when they had leverage. If they're throwing with leverage where it's not a passing down because, it's 2nd and 5 or whatever, you're going to have a long night. It's going to be a tough day because those guys are going to be able to protect, and he's going to have a clean pocket, and he's going to cut you up. But if you can get them to where they're having to throw because you're making them throw, and then you can start to pin your ears back a little bit, the game changes. But this is the thing. And so, like you said, Greg, you're going to have to take some chances. To me, the biggest thing is on early downs, you're going to have to take some chances to try to generate some negatives in the running game. And then, ideally, you can leverage some of those 2nd and 9, 2nd and 11s into stops because you might be able to get pressure on that, or on the 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. That's where you get them off the field. That is more important in this game than just about any other game they've played all season.
Yeah, and Tommy, a good example of that is last week against Virginia, as Jason pointed out. I mean, they averaged 1.8 yards per carry. And so what ends up happening when you have that scenario play out, you do get into those behind the change scenarios. Duke was 4-15 on 3rd downs against Virginia last week. And that's the key to it. And so I was going exactly the same direction Jason was there with the run game. And it's again, I got to bring up Pat. I hadn't talked about Pat in a while. When Pat's defense have been very good, of course everybody should know Pat Narduzzi. When his defenses are very good, his teams are good, they completely take away the run, and they make you beat his teams one-handed. And if you get a good quarterback, you can do that. But that's kind of the idea, I think, for both this game and next week, is you've got to be able to take away something. And I think Mensah and Bailey are both too good of quarterbacks to really kind of take them away. So you got to take away the run game. And that gives you a fighting chance to get into some of these 3rd and long situations where maybe you can get after him on an obvious passing down and try to at least get pressure on him and have him make a mistake. Yeah,
actually, to tease next week, Bailey has almost exactly the same pressure splits.
Yeah.
Versus pressure versus.
It's the same game. It's the same game, I think.
It's the same game the next 2 weeks. Duke has the better quarterback. I mean, Bailey is in the 80s when he's clean, and he's in like the 40s when he's got pressure, versus the 90s and the 50s. I mean, there's your difference. It's a little bit there, but I do think NC State might have a little bit more speed on their offense overall. Around Bailey, so it evens out a little bit. But this team did beat NC State 45-20 or 45-33. So there's that. One last thing here before we move on, at least from my end, that should also be brought up is I'm looking at the NC State game here. Is Duke's willingness to go for it on 4th down. That's been a factor for them this year. They're 17 of 23 on 4th down this year. So they're 74% on 4th down. And, you look at that Clemson game and I'm asking myself, like, how did they win this where they couldn't run the football? Their third down conversion rate against Clemson was, they were 3 of 14 on third down and they scored 46 points. And you're like, how did they do that? And they went 5 for 5 on fourth down. And that was the difference in the game against Clemson, is 5 for 5 on fourth down, especially on that last drive. The key fourth down was the difference in the game. So they will, and they went 2 for 2 in their game against NC State.
They went for 2 against Clemson to win it.
Yeah. So fourth down conversions, 2-point conversions, and all of that. Manny will coach this game aggressively. And so that's another thing that if you're Belichick and you're the staff, you actually have to coach a little differently against a team that is going to go for it on go for it on fourth down more often, because you get them, let's say, in 3rd and 7. For most teams, 3rd and 7, and they get it down to, they get a 5-yard completion or a 6-yard completion. Everybody holds their hand up, in the fist. Fourth down, all right, and then the punt team goes out there. With Duke, you're about as likely to get them to stay on the field, even on their side of the 50, because they're really confident that they're going to get that fourth down. So you have to come prepared for that as well. And I do think that that's likely going to be a factor in this game, is fourth down conversions. If you can get a stop or two on that can flip the game pretty rapidly. So I do think that's something else to keep an eye on.
I want to ask you about a personnel matter after I talk about Dollar Shave Club. It's coming. I need it too. I actually need to get some Dollar Shave Club, and I've actually got one. And you can get one too. Go to dollarshaveclub.com. Yeah, Greg Barnes, you're getting a little white in there, Greg.
Yeah, I know.
It won't be long before it's all white. That's what I was told. If you trim white hairs, they come back in triplicate. So that's why I'm gray now. Anyway, Dollar Shave Club, from the sink to the stadium. Jason Staples' favorite line: shave in style, shave with North Carolina. A North Carolina razor in your hand. Alums, fans, you can get them at Walmart. You can get them anywhere at the big box stores. Get your business done. Look sharp. Look clean when you come to Kenan Stadium and get your Dollar Shave Club. You see their ad at the top of the page as well. Jason, how big a deal is Thad Dixon and Caleb Cost listed as healthy? Does that help this Carolina defense or not, in your opinion?
Do you think having your best player on defense, who happens to be, a major pass coverage factor against a team that throws the ball a ton, do you think that would be a factor at all for you?
I don't know.
For me, it would be.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, for me, it would be. I mean, they've gotten good play from Patterson out there, but he's not as good as Dixon. And if Dixon is full go and 100%, he's their best cover guy. I mean, there's no question. So, yeah, that makes a difference. That makes a big difference. And the hope is that you're going to be able to leverage that and maybe tilt your coverages a little bit. You expect him to take away the guy that is across from him. Now, if I'm Duke, I go after him early. I want to see how healthy he really is. I want to see if there's any rust there. I double move him because he's given up a couple double moves this year, but I double move him. I do a couple things to find out. But yeah, I think he does. I think he's worth a couple points. I think he's worth 3-4 points to that defense, and he's one of your best opportunities to get a key turnover, that sort of thing. So yeah, he matters, and Caleb Cost also matters. I mean, the other thing is that lets you put Jaden Patterson kind of where you want him in different looks as well. It also means you might get better effort at the other corner at times. So yeah, we'll see how that goes.
I'm not going to say what I was thinking there, but I am going to make a comment about a post. Let me tell you something, LVBT56. I'm moving back in the tees. I'm not. You will never see me at a senior tee. If you see me at a senior tee, it's because they've left a couple $100 that fell out of old man's pocket, and I'm there to pick it up. Greg Barnes grinning over there. This man is never playing senior tee.
The day that I can play the senior tees, I'm playing.
No, it's just not the same. And
So
it's
for me,
funny
it
to
depends.
me out here. They've changed them to gray instead of red. Out
It
here.
depends on what the context of playing the round is.
Right.
So if I'm just playing a casual round where there's no stakes involved or whatever, I'm going to play as far back as I can because I'm a masochist. But if
I
I'm
agree
playing
with
for
that.
what's that?
I agree with that. We're playing in the damn woods back there, and I ain't even gotten off the tee yet. Playing
Yeah.
with you, so yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a masochist, but if we're talking about playing tournament golf, if we're talking about playing for money or anything like that, the moment I can move up tees, I'm moving up tees, and I'm still going to take advantage of my length up there too. So I'm gonna take advantage of that. I'm with Greg on this.
Well, y'all both suck, but I'm. We're going to play it sometime.
It's
We're
just
going to
low
go out to
ego is
those.
what it is.
We go to the fine golf courses and play some. Garrett Clemens loves the golf talk. You'd be surprised how many people fuss about the golf talk, Garrett. So we're going to twist it back around.
I'm still hoping that somebody gets a hold of Mr. Griffin and lets him know that we over at Inside Carolina would love a walk through interview where we play around and maybe mic him up a little bit and talk some UNC sports this summer or this spring or whenever he has a spare moment. I can guarantee you we're in for it. So if anybody knows him, I know he's a Tar Heel through and through. So we'd love to join him in for that.
Yeah, he was actually in Chapel Hill the other day for an event out at Findlay. So working on it, Jason, working on it. Talking with Greg Barnes and Jason Staples here on the Game Plan, sponsored by Dollar Shave Club, sponsored by Johnny T-Shirt. Before we move off Duke's offense right fast, I mean, Duke's got a running game, and they're able to get some runs. How do you stop – if you're going to stop Duke's running game, Jason, and do that and pressure Mensah, how do you do it? Do you do it with your linebackers? Do you do it with the front four? Does this game come down to just the front four? Period for North Carolina?
I'd say the front six. I think it really does come down to the front six more than anything else, because if you're able to stop the run and then get pressure, I think what happens behind that matters a lot less. But I think one of the things you've got to do in this one, you've got to find ways of just creating some piles with what they do in the run game. You want to have those tackles. You want to kind of mug some backers and things, and you want to twist a little bit. You want to get those tackles just causing enough trouble to keep those backers free as you let the backers kind of find where they're going. So, I like against this kind of team, you line up your 3 technique in that B gap and you move them to the A gap on the snap, and you gap exchange some. You do some of those things just to try to move to force the offensive line to have to work on the fly a little bit and adjust. I think and the other benefit of that is if you're doing some of that with some fire zone type stuff behind it, then you've got some opportunities to create pressure as well with some of those looks. So to me, it's stop the run on the way to the quarterback with a lot of 5-man and occasional 6-man addition stuff again on rundowns, and just see if you can make sure that you're triggering well and that you're putting yourself in position to come downhill and try to create negative plays. And I'm willing to give up a couple of plays in order to create some negatives in this game.
They're going to score regardless. So yeah.
Greg, get in. They're going to score regardless. You got to make them
right. You take chances.
I rather them score an 80-yard chunk than 15 plays, 8-minute drives. And
that's right. That's right.
We'll see how it shakes out. I told y'all, look at the chat. Some people hate the golf talk. I get it. Some people, there's a lot of anger going on. I mean, we have fun on these shows regardless. We understand the dire nature of the program at the moment. But
and the Liberty Bell's at stake.
Yeah, the Liberty Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. We are talking to Greg Barnes. He's in Philadelphia banging on the Liberty Bell. Jason Staples. Somebody wants to know where are the pencils from, Jason? Is it a Keith Hill's pencil?
This is actually Keith Hill's pencil. Yes.
There you go. I called it. I get the $20 gift certificate. Krebs, I saw you post that in the chat somewhere. Let's talk about Carolina's offense. Greg, this is one thing, and I wrote in my column a little bit. I just can't understand why there hadn't been any maybe there has been some attempt, but there's been no fruition on creativity. I mean, it looks the same every week to me, with a little bit of variation. But your thoughts on Carolina's ability to generate enough offense to be able to even remotely stay with Duke if Duke is hot?
Well, I think to your point there, Tommy, I highlighted it in your breakdown of the press conference earlier this week with Belichick. But Belichick's offensive game plan for basically his entire career was to lean on the defense. And so the offense is not supposed to make any mistakes, no turnovers, try to run the ball, be conservative, score a few points, and lean on your defense. And because he had Tom Brady and because they had a lot of success, you could do that. And I think he really wanted to see if that style of play could work at the college level. Number one, you got to have the players to do it. But even more than that, Georgia has the players to do it. Bama has the players to do it. And they're still scoring a ton of points. And the reason why is even if you have good defenses at the college level, offenses are just better if it's going elite versus elite. And that's the problem. If you can't be the 1996 or 97 Tar Heels and have that kind of success now, the way that the game has changed. It's just not possible. And I think we can all agree that some significant changes have to take place on that side of the ball this offseason, starting with the offensive scheme. And then you got to get the players in place to do some of the things that you want to be able to do. But we are where we are. I don't know that there's a lot of creativity available. I don't know that there's enough talent in place to be able to maximize some creativity. You're kind of stuck with what you got. And so you just have to be effective in doing what you have. Look, last week, Jason hit on this. We hit on this in our review piece. I thought Gio was okay against a really good defense. He wasn't great. He didn't make enough game-winning plays, of course, which has been a problem all season long. But I didn't think he played bad. Offensive line was not very solid, and they just didn't take advantage of some opportunities that were there. So I do think if given what Duke and NC State, both those teams coming up, what they have on the defensive side of the ball, there are opportunities for Gio to have a good game. And I think that's an important thing to kind of focus on. One aspect that I think is important is, and we can dive into Duke's defense as well. But just in terms of, we talk a lot about the explosive plays. Well, Duke is 16th in the conference in giving up plays of 20-plus yards. They've given up 56. So about 6 a game. North Carolina, of course, is not averaging that many explosive plays a game. But the opportunity is there, and there's a reason for that. But I think North Carolina has the opportunity in the passing game. And then the other component is, if you look at what Duke has done in run defense the past 4 weeks, they've not been good. I mean, they've given up, what was that number I wrote down? They've given up like 750 rushing yards the last 4 weeks. And so they had, a little bit of success early in the year, but they've really struggled the last few weeks. So there's opportunity for you to have success both on the ground and through the air. And on the ground is very important because if you can run the ball, you can eat up the clock. And Jason has given us a speech a lot over the years about how time of possession is kind of irrelevant. And I agree with him. But I think in this game, you want to keep the game as short as possible to limit Duke's possessions, because the more possessions they have, the more points they're going to score. And that obviously is not a good thing for this Carolina offense.
I think that's what they've been doing all year. They've been shortening the games, and it makes the defense look better than it is. But I could be wrong.
Possibly, yeah.
Jason, your your thoughts here. I mean, the issue with the big plays, and I've said it, and we've said it a ton, is sitting in Winston-Salem at that stadium when we weren't battling some fine Wake Forest fans, is there were free guys running wild. There were wide open receivers, and it's been that way all year. And to get those big plays, you got to see one or two of them a game because they're easy throws. But I digress, and do not let Butch Green in the chat bait you into that discussion again that he's talking about.
He saw me laugh when he posted it.
I know. So we're having fun. I don't want to offend anybody. We're having fun on the show. How does Carolina do it, Jason? I mean, I have, for the last several weeks, I've said this game is going to be more high scoring than you guys think, and y'all both have said no chance. So now you've almost got me convinced. But how does Carolina put some points on the board against a defense that'll give you points if you execute against it?
Well, I think the most important thing is to put the ball in the fairway off the tee as often as possible. And I'm saying this because I'm seeing people in the comments that are saying, hey, can we talk about golf instead of UNC's offense? Is there any way we can go back to the golf? Because the UNC offense, we have to hear about that. And I'm with you all. I'm with you all here. It would be a lot more exciting if we weren't talking about UNC's offense. It's just the way it's been. But you know what? We're gonna keep the ball in the fairway a little more, and we're gonna still talk offense, even though some of you are really asking. You're begging us not to. I do think actually the idea of putting Caleb Wilson at quarterback actually might be a little bit inspired right now. I saw somebody in the comments suggest that, and right now that might actually be a whole lot better. If nothing else, we know that Caleb Wilson could see over the line of scrimmage to see the middle of the field. So there's right?
Do not fall for that cheese. Keep going. Stay in your lane. Go.
So, hey, the ball's still flying. It's about to land in the fairway. It might land intermediate cut and then work its way over. But I really think in this game, so Greg went where I was initially going to go as well on this, and that is Duke's linebacking core they're a mash unit. Their starters are out. And since those guys have gotten hurt, they haven't been able to stop the run, like you said. So the last 4 games, they've not given up fewer than 4.75 yards per carry. Now, granted, those are 4 okay teams running the ball: Georgia Tech, Clemson, Virginia, but they gave up 5.2 to Connecticut, to UConn. Right? So if you're coming into this and you're like, they've given up 4.75 or more yards per carry against the last 4 opponents, and their linebackers have really been struggling in terms of getting guys on the ground. Well, find ways to force those backers to come up and tackle. Find ways to try to get after them up front and see if you can go for more than 4 yards per carry. Now, once again, this is very much a case of, eminently movable object against largely immobile, or trying to stop a largely immobile force. But the reality is Carolina, what they want to do is run the football, and they're playing against a team that has given up a lot of rushing yards in the last 4 weeks. Something's going to have to give, because Carolina's last 4 games there's only one over 4 yards per carry offensively. They 3.7 against Virginia, 4.8 against Syracuse, 1.85 against Stanford, and 2.3 against Wake Forest. They haven't been able to run the football, but they're about to play a team that has given up a lot of rushing yards the last month. You've got to come in thinking that the best thing possible is to attack those backers. If it's me, and again, if I were Freddie Kitchens, I would be wealthier, but the offense would be scoring more points. What I would be doing is I would be trying to get Gio Lopez in the shotgun and try to run a bunch of base level RPO stuff that's going to put those backers in conflict. So I want to use some stick stuff, some tight end, some tight end stuff in the RPO game. RPO glances right behind those backers, especially from the slot receivers. Find ways to force those backers to have to make some decisions, and also find ways to force those backers to win for Duke's defense. If you can isolate those guys, Duke's backers have been almost as bad as North Carolina's run game the last few weeks. See if you can be less bad than them in this area. And then that sets up some play action to try to throw down the field. And I think you're going to need to hit 2 or 3 shot plays in this game to win it. That means, hitting stuff that's 20, 30 yards downfield plus. You're going to need 2 or 3 of those to win this game realistically.
Greg, your thoughts here. Who's Carolina's MVP on offense if they win this game? Is it Lopez or is it one of the running backs?
I think MVP would have to be one of the running backs. Now, I really think with Lopez, the key for him is just not making mistakes. And you got to be able to turn out some rushing yards. And I agree with Jason. I mean, you've got to, it's interesting because on the Duke side of things, they understand the issues that Carolina has offensively. So there's value in taking shots if you're Duke offensively with Mensah, because if you can score a couple easy pass plays, well, that's going to make it really difficult for North Carolina, like we saw last week. Conversely, for North Carolina, if you're trying to drive down the field slowly and methodically, time and time again, good luck. And so I think you need some of those shot plays as well. Everybody needs shot plays. It's fun. But I think the run game and being able to move the chains, give the defense a little bit of rest, shorten the game, all those things are important. So I think the run game is probably the most important thing. If you can do that and you can put Gio Lopez in some opportunities to make plays that are not obvious passing downs, because what Duke is going to do, and this is what Manny Diaz has always done, is they're going to come after you. I mean, Duke has more pressures. They have 170 pressures on the season, which is more than what North Carolina has. And they get burned on the back end sometimes, but they're willing to get after you. And I think it's an interesting comparison because some of the conversations we had during the Sam and Drake years is that you got to match up the offense and the defense appropriately. And if your defense is not very good, maybe you need to take more shots, right? In just terms of trying to get after the quarterback and create some negative plays. Gene, of course, was not in that mindset. He was much more of a bend but don't break. Well, Manny, I think, is probably doing what he needs to be doing defensively with a great offense. He just doesn't have enough pieces. And as Jason said, when you got some guys out, that hurts as well. But they will create negative plays. And so you got to be able to take advantage of those opportunities.
Jason, what are some names Carolina fans should know on Duke's defense? I'm looking at PFF grades, and if they're all healthy, you better figure out a way to block Wesley Williams and Aaron Hall. And I'm not talking about the singer, Aaron Hall. I'm talking about the Duke interior defensive lineman and Vince Anthony.
Vince Anthony's the guy.
Yeah, you guys just named him. I don't even need to talk about the others. I mean, I think those are the guys you're gonna have to spend the time with. I mean, beyond that, they've got a couple guys that haven't played quite as much, but are dangerous as well. Kevin O'Connor is an edge who's had some pressures and limited snaps. Is another guy that I think might make some noise as well. But yeah, and in terms of corners, their best guy's Chandler Rivers. You're gonna see him out there. They'll probably try to get him matched up against number one for Carolina as often as possible. You'll see Ship against Rivers quite a bit, but yeah, I can't really build much on what you guys already said there.
And Duke has missed 117 tackles this year, so that's a lot.
Yeah, I was about to point out that they will miss them because they're flying at you, and they'll miss them as well. But it's wild that their defensive line is the top 4 pressures on the team. And then it kind of goes from there. So those edges and those interior guys get after you.
So let's stay there for a second, Tommy, because I was going to ask Jason about this. heard an interview with Manny, I guess maybe back in the spring. But just talking about kind of his idea in terms of what they want to do with the defensive line, and I think his comment was, "We're blitzing to get to the quarterback, not blitzing gaps." What does he mean by that, Jason?
So that means that Manny is very much a Mickey Andrews disciple here, and he's willing to sacrifice some gap integrity at times for just sheer outright dog cussed intensity and explosion up the field and havoc. So he's going to every so often they'll have two guys in the same gap. Oops. Every so often they'll leave a space for a quarterback to run upfield or something like that. They're not going to be super gap sound. But danged if they aren't going to be playing their absolute hardest to get to the spot where the quarterback is. And the general thought here, Chuck Amato, back when he was at Florida State, used to talk about this, and Manny goes back to those days. He used to talk about how it takes, and I don't know if it's actually true or not, but it was a story that he always told the defense, and he would talk about this all the time. And he would say, it takes 10, 11 guys to get a single guy into a straitjacket. So if we get all 11 of you guys out there playing like crazy men, it's going to take 120 guys to block you. This sort of thing, right? So it's going to take 120 guys. And the idea is that you have to play with that level of just lay it on the line, dog-cussed, dogged pursuit. Everything is going to be, the effort level has to be sold out. And if you're going to do that, you'll kind of you're just going to create havoc. And the offense is going to, even if you leave a gap every so often, you're in the backfield so fast that the back can't get to that gap, or somebody else is going to be in the backfield. So you're just forcing it's sort of like in basketball, you have those teams that just make the decision. They're going to push the pace no matter what because they want to get into a track meet, and they'll sacrifice a certain level of efficiency offensively to chuck up shots within the first 5 or 7 seconds of the shot clock, simply because they want that pace and they want those extra at-bats. And they might only shoot 35%, 32%, but they want there to be 80 possessions in that game. And that's kind of the approach defensively that these guys take, is we're going to take our shots.
It was Roy Williams. That's the way Roy Williams played. And I remember back in the day, the old Loyola Marymount guys played that way. Yep. And usually it would overwhelm people. But if you met a good team, like when they played Carolina in, what was that, 88, Carolina beat the dog mess out of them because they could do that too. So,
well, and this is why Roy always had trouble with Virginia.
Yep. Because they make you play ugly, and Carolina did not play ugly well. Carolina and Duke, 3:30 in Kenan Stadium on the ACC network. West Durham in Chapel Hill to call the game. Is it time for predictions? Is it time for predictions? Y'all have swayed me out of my high-scoring ways, but I'm not going first this time. Jason, you're going first.
Oh, how many points should we presume here? I don't think it's a secret that neither Greg nor I are gonna pick Carolina to win this game. I think the question is just a matter of how much. As far as I'm concerned, I will say this is a rivalry game. Funny things happen in rivalry games. Sometimes you get a turnover or 3. Sometimes you get a great punt return from a terrific back that goes right up the sideline to seal a game. Sometimes those things happen, and so you can't preclude it. You can't say there's no chance. But I will say, it would be a surprise for Carolina to win this game. And it's just simply because if you were handicapping North Carolina's defense against air, you're going to have to think about it. about whether or not they're going to score. And I think you have to score points to beat this Duke team. So to me, they will score some points because of Duke's struggles defensively, but I just don't think it's going to be enough against that quarterback and that offense. So I'm going to go with Duke winning. I'm going to say Duke 34, North Carolina 13.
I'm muted. 34-13 for Jason Staples. Greg, you're up.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree with anything Jason said there. I do think, I don't know, maybe I'm just optimistic. I think Gio, I thought he played okay last week, and I think if he plays like that this week, the offense can have a little bit of success. I think the way Duke is trending with the defensive run game is beneficial for North Carolina. So I think there'll be a little bit more success. Now, we know there's a governor on the Carolina offense, and it's really right around that 20-point mark. So I think even a good performance is going to be right around there, which is not going to be enough against Duke. Although, I really want to see North Carolina and NC State going into that finale, both at 5 and 6. That would be just a blast. I don't think it's going to happen. And I've got Duke winning this one 31-21. So I think Carolina's going to have a little bit more success offensively, but still not enough to get the job done.
Offensive explosion. I kind of like your prediction better than mine, but I already went. So
yeah, I'm going to throw some of these. Sean Crawley says 22-20. That's a Tommy Ashley score there, Sean. I was the other day, what did I say, 18 for Carolina one game, and I'm sitting there during the game trying to figure out, okay, how did they get the 18? Lewis Bass, 31-10. I assume that's Duke. 20-19. Preston, 24-13. Duke.
These are shockingly low scores for Duke's offense.
Yeah.
42 to 10 for Duke on there. Over under on field goals. Jonathan Watts asks, I'm going to go over under
1.5
field goals for the entire game.
For North Carolina.
I'm going to go 4.5 for the entire game, both teams. And I'm going to take the over. Field goals. No, because I think Duke will probably, to your point, go for it on fourth down a lot. Butch Green says 41-17. I'm going to go 38-17 Duke, barring a defensive touchdown. I think, Jason, your point about rivalry games, anything can happen, but I feel like after 10 games watching North Carolina, we kind of know what's going to happen. Has there been anything for Carolina's offense the entire year so far, and this is a question for both of you, that you said, wow? June's run, maybe against Syracuse, where he stiff-armed a guy, maybe Ship's long run and play, but we kind of expected that. Has there been anything that Carolina's offense has done in a positive way that surprised either one of you all year?
The first drive against TCU.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good one.
And Hodge got y'all in the chat as y'all were talking about it. Yeah, I mean, so if the season stopped, if the dome closed at 8:15 on September the 1st, we'd be talking about an elite offense, but I haven't seen anything since. I'm going to go, what'd I say, 38-17 Duke. Anything left, boys, before we get out of here? We got one more of these.
Yeah, I've got something that's not UNC related, but it is ACC related. So an important week for the ACC championship game race. And currently, I found this hilarious. Georgia Tech and Virginia are projected to be in the ACC championship game. Now, Georgia Tech, of course, has a big game this weekend with Pitt coming to town. So that's going to be a key one. I guess Pitt's still in it, but they've got Georgia Tech and Miami left. But if Georgia Tech wins on Saturday at home against Pitt, then very likely it's going to be Georgia Tech who will be in and Virginia, which I don't think anybody would have thought to start the year, even though Georgia Tech was supposed to be pretty good.
What is this, 1990?
I know, right?
I mean,
Sean
my
Moore and
goodness.
Herman Moore and all
I'll
that.
Yeah, you got Herman Moore back, years up in Virginia, and wow.
So my question is, how much will tickets cost you to get in there? The fees on StubHub will be more than the actual ticket itself.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
So the ACC, man, it is, and they're still projecting Miami to be in the playoff, and they're not even going to make the ACC championship game. It's just
Well, they can't. I think they are just.
They're just picking the highest rated one.
It's a law of nature that Miami of Florida is not able to win ACC championships. It's just a thing. It's not
It
allowed.
has been an interesting year. Carolina and Duke, like I said, Saturday, the second of 3 straight rivalry games. Carolina needs to figure it out. 4-6 going in. Technically, they could make a bowl at 5-7. Quite frankly, I think if you're going to get to 5-7, this better be the 5 here against Duke, because it is not going to be pleasant in Raleigh. A couple of days after Thanksgiving.
A night game too.
A night game too. I saw that. I was like, can it just be the 1 p.m. kick with no TV? I miss those days. And they said 7:30 in Raleigh, and I said, oh, I thought Wake was bad. Anyway, that's Greg Barnes. That's Jason Staples. I'm Tommy Ashley. We're sponsored by Dollar Shave Club and Johnny T-Shirt. Go support Johnny T-Shirt on Franklin Street and get your Inside Carolina Premium subscription if you have not already. Like, rate, review, subscribe to the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel has been blowing up. We've got a ton of great content. We'll have basketball coverage all next week. I'm going to field hockey national semifinals tomorrow. There'll be some coverage of that on the website. It's going to be a fun day in Durham. Like Aaron Matson said, I'm looking forward to going to Durham, and I don't think I've ever said that before. So I'll see you from field hockey tomorrow, and the guys will all be around. It's Thanksgiving week next week, but we'll still be loading up on shows. We'll figure out and let you know when. Greg, Jason, appreciate it.